Good evening to you and welcome to Rwanda Television News with me, Sam Kalisa. Kicking it off, Rwanda today joined the rest of the world to mark the International Refugee Day. The refugees in the country expressed concern over the declining support of funding they are receiving. The representative of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, in Rwanda says the new policy provides for refugee assistance funding for their projects. Gabi Muvunyi kickstarts tonight's bulletin with this report.
Dajijimana, Bahati and Gilbert Mugabo are Congolese refugees living in Gihembe refugee camp in Gicumbi district. The two gentlemen say they are honored that Rwanda has hosted them for the last 24 years. However, they express concern on the issue of low funds, explaining that due to the high market prices, they are suffering with the decline of funding they receive. We would like to thank the Rwandan government for hosting us for the last 24 years and helping us with everything here at Gihembe. Though we had issues of hunger, the government has taken good care of us for the last 24 years. We would like the government to continue supporting us through. The UNHCR representative in Rwanda, Baba Fall Ahmed, says the organization's policy is to work with them to become independent.
Our new approach is to do what we call targeting the assistance to the needs. We don't give food blanketly to all the refugees, but we give food to those who need it more, the most vulnerable ones. And the medium people, we give them like half a ration. And those who are self-reliant, we give them, we increase them, we give them more funding to fund their businesses to be more self-reliant and depend on their own selves. And for the future, our approach is really to work on the self-reliance, to strengthen the livelihood of the refugees through our joint economic inclusion with the government and partners of refugees. That is the way forward, and that is the only solution we can have to get them self-reliant. The more we go, the more they are self-reliant, the better, the less they depend from humanitarian assistance. You cannot continue to be all your life depending on something.
Another issue that the refugees are facing is that some of the colleagues have been transferred to Mahama camp. According to Bahati Justine, this has really affected them. I have a butchery here that cost me around 3 million, and I wanted to install tiled floors. I also have fellow colleagues that have been building and wanted to start working in their buildings. We took loans to build, and now they came and demolished our establishments, saying that we have to move to Mahama. The minister in charge of emergency management, Kaisire Marie Solange, says some of the refugees lived in potential high-risk zones that may continue to threaten their lives.
Mishinga iteza imbere imibereho myiza n'ubukungu bw'impunzi hagamijwe kwigira yariyongereye.
Refugee development projects have increased, although funding has been declining and some refugees have been laid off humanitarian assistance. This work will continue to be improved to ensure that the available assistance is provided effectively. About 1,385 families of 7,556 people have been relocated from Gihembe and Kigeme camps and will be resettled in Mahama camp. The International Refugee Day is celebrated as the world is going through the COVID-19 pandemic. In Rwanda, 416 refugees have already been vaccinated, Rwanda being one of the 33 countries committed to protecting refugees against the pandemic. In Rwanda, there are more than 127,557 refugees. Of those, 90% are hosted in camps. Gabi Muvunyi for RTV.
Thank you, Gabi, for that report. Now into education matters. Some educators are requesting that each of their ideas should be taken into consideration during the creation of the new education policy. Gabi Mvunyi continues.
The Ministry of Education has recently announced that it has started rolling up ideas and focusing on the revision of the education policy that has been in place since 2003. This reform comes after parents have expressed the concern in the current education system. If a child is learning in English and does not understand English, where will he or she use that English? Should first know Kinyarwanda, then move to learn other languages. In the villages, we still have a lot of uneducated children. The way we have health workers in the village, let's also have education officials. That way they can find what these children are studying and what needs to be done. Commend teachers. They are very valuable. I heard that they get support to go to university, but I think they should really increase their salary. The president of the Rwanda Educators Syndicate finds that there are areas in the education system that needs to be changed, including the years in which students study in high school, saying it should be changed from 6 years to 4 years. He adds that the livelihood of the teachers still needs to be addressed.
Mu mashuri abanza abana bakomeza bakiga imyaka 6 ariko hakibandwa ku ndimi.
In regards to the teachers' livelihood, it is not just salary increase that is needed. They also need support in housing. What we ask is that ahead of the new curriculum, because we have the ability to improve it.
Bwo kujya ku mashuri bakamushyira hafi.
The Ministry of Education says the pillars of the new policy are teaching self-esteem and self-sufficiency, emphasizing that no one should be left behind in education. Gabi Movunyi for RTV.
The Rwanda Land Management and Use Authority has announced that a state-of-the-art technology is being built to provide land services without having to use papers during a transfer of title deeds, and to improve the way land services are provided by the private sector to address challenges that people face in search of land titles. Jen Motoni has the report.
People in different areas of the country in search of land deeds are facing various challenges, which include waiting for a very long time to get them. Sometimes you buy a piece of land with one title deed, yet you want to divide it in half. Once you apply for it, it can take up to 2 to 3 months to get them, which is a challenge, especially when you want to construct a house, because one cannot do so while the land is still registered on another person unless there has been a transfer of title deeds from the person who just bought the land from. When one goes to the sector's office in search for land services, he or she will find a long lineup because the notary works only once in a week. The private owners who connect landowners with those who want to buy them and provide services to help these people get their land deeds, like Keti and Rwanda, also say that it takes long to get the documents, hence affecting their customers. The Keti and Rwanda Vice President, Jules Cynthia, says that if there was a technological way of providing land services, it would speed up the process of obtaining the documents. Currently, in some areas on the outskirts of Kigali, for example in Rugesera district, it can take months while resolving issues before accessing the documents, which creates a barrier between us and the buyer and seller of the land. We wish for a much easier way to get the documents faster. If only there was a technological way one can access the documents, it would be much easier and faster. The Director General and Chief Registrar of Land Titles, Mukamana Esperance, explains that some of the state-of-the-art technology that is underway is going to be used in providing land services in order to address some of those challenges. Currently, a technological way of providing land services is underway. We've started its trial in Gasabo district, but we will continue to do so across the country, whereby a person will be using the biometrics to sign it in front of the notary, like how it's done at the migration, and then followed by other processes such that a person may get their land deed online, and then he or she can print it out on their own. Ms. Mukabana says there is a plan in place to increase the number of notaries and to allow private services to provide land services, but in accordance with the law, so that people can get their land deeds as soon as possible. Private services will be allowed to provide land services in order to expedite the service, which is also added to this law, where land surveyors, valuers, and land notaries from private services will be allowed, as they have started working in categories. Other rules will be amended so that we can also have land notaries in order to expedite the service, because it's not enough to have one notary per sector. We are doing our best to enforce this law and provide better services to the people. The law number 27/2021 of 10th June 2021 on the use of land has already been adopted by the deputies and has reached the State Gazette and has now been approved, and the expedition of laws has begun in order for its implementation to start. The law is expected to solve many of the challenges faced by the community in accessing land services. Jane Mutoni, RTV News.
Thank you, Jen, for that report. But before you go, as the number of COVID-19 patients continue to rise in Rubavu district, some of the attendees at different churches on Sunday were spotted adhering to COVID-19 preventive measures, while others were not. Jen Mutoni.
Across the churches that were authorized to operate in the Rubavu district, members of various religions and churches did attend. Before entering, they would first wash their hands, and they were sitting in accordance with the social distancing guideline while wearing face masks properly. Some of them insist that they know for sure that COVID-19 pandemic is a serious threat to their lives. As soon as I enter the church, I make sure I sit accordingly in order to respect the social distancing guideline and avoid unnecessary movements. I also make sure that I avoid contact with others by all means so that I don't get infected or infect others. However, at the Stella Maris parish in Gisenyi district, the first mass was marked by a large number of attendees, hence it was hard to comply with the COVID-19 preventive measures as the church received more than the 30% contrary to the guideline policy, while others sat outside to attend the mass. The priest of the parish, Tuisenge Justin, says it was difficult to turn back the Christians who had come to pray, but will do their best next time to strictly adhere to the COVID-19 preventive measures. However, in other churches, including the Restoration Church and ADEPER, it was noted that some of the attendees do not wear face masks properly, and the way in which they give their offerings does not comply with COVID-19 guidelines, as the church tithe offering bag is passed from one person to another. The executive secretary of Gisenyi district, Tuishime Jean Bosco, says churches and other places of worship that are found violating the COVID-19 preventive measures are subjected to sanctions.
We shall
be visiting different churches, and if we notice that attendees are not wearing face masks properly or not practicing social distancing and the number is beyond the 30% venue capacity, we shall talk to their leader in terms of closing the church until further notice, so as to serve as an example to other churches. According to the Gisenyi district authorities, in 1 week, more than 700 people have been arrested for violating the COVID-19 guidelines. The 10 buses that have been operating illegally have been closed, and fines worth about 1.5 million Rwandan francs have been collected from those who violated the COVID-19 preventive measures. Jane Mutoni, reporting for RTV News.
On Sunday, the Kigali International Peace Marathon was completed with Rwandans Yankurije Marthe and Namubonye Yive winning the gold medals in the women and men half marathon categories respectively. It is a competition that was being held in compliance to the COVID-19 preventive measures. The Kigali International Peace Marathon, which covered 21 kilometers long, was completed this Sunday with more than 700 participants. Rwandan athletes who raced for the local club, APR Athletics Club, won the race, with Yankurije Marthe, who finished second in the 2019 marathon, winning the women category using 1 hour, 15 minutes and 7 seconds, 1 minute and 20 seconds ahead of Adeline Musabyeyesu, who came in second. In the men's category, Nimuona Yive finished top of the men half marathon after posting 1 hour, 3 minutes and 38 seconds to cover 21 kilometers, followed by 2 Kenyans. The 2 Rwandan athletes say they trained enough in the half marathon category. They pledged to defend the win in the next competitions. First of all, it is God who helped me, and then the coaching staff and the sports ministry. Normally, Kenyans were the ones winning the race, but this time we were so much determined, and we still are. It's pride to our country that I won the marathon. This gives hope that even next year we can win the competition with continued training. In the full marathon, Ethiopian Kindo Dese won the gold medal after posting 2 hours, 23 minutes and 29 seconds, with Rwandan David Gakuru coming in 5th. The Minister of Sports, Orode Mimosa Munyangaju, commented on the unpleasing performance in the full marathon category, but promised better results in the next year's competition. This season requires training hard so that we can be able to win the full marathon. Our players are committed to do all they can so that we'll be talking about a different story of Rwandans winning the full marathon next year. The 16th edition of Kigali International Peace Marathon coincided with the International Refugee Day, with more than 25 participants from different refugee camps across the country. On behalf of the entire news and technical team that made it happen, thank you very much for being with us. My name is Sam Kalisa, wishing you a nice evening and a fruitful week ahead.